back. You're watching the game. The NBA postseason always brings thrillers, and what happened in the play-ins has no shortage of breathtaking moments. Now, with us to break down what happened in the last few days in the NBA is All-Star analyst Isaac Go. And since we have a lot of Lakers fans in the room, we will talk about them last. Alright, so pag-usapan muna natin yung Eastern Conference play-ins. Atlanta Hawks against the Miami Heat. Atlanta winning that one 116-105. The Atlanta Hawks, okay, taking down a Miami Heat team who, I don't know what to make of them. They're supposed to be good, but they fall off a cliff sometimes, and then they look really great, and the consistency is not there.
And that goes to show how tough the NBA is. Because a lot of people wrote Atlanta off early because everyone was like saying the pairing's not gonna work. They fired their coach and all that turmoil, and yet they managed to beat the Miami Heat team that, as you said, can be really good.
Yes, they can.
This Kyle Lowry had 33 in that game off the bench, and still they managed to sweep through.
I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if Pau all of a sudden becomes an Atlanta Hawks fan because their coach is
Quinn
the
Snyder.
former coach of the Utah Jazz, and I like what they're doing with the Hawks now. Now that Quinn Snyder is the coach, they're not very predictable. It's not going to be Trae Young the whole game. He just had, Trae Young had 25 points but only shot 1 3-pointer. So they're very unpredictable, especially in that game against the Heat.
The Jazz alumni are all over the place. Now let us look at the Chicago Bulls against the Toronto Raptors. Chicago Bulls had to erase a 19-point deficit. You talk about inconsistency, you talk about not holding down the fort. Toronto didn't do a great job there.
I watched that game, I flipped it on, and I saw the score, and I was like, is this done? Because Toronto seemed it rolling. The only thing I saw was DeMar DeRozan's daughter shouting.
Right, that's the same thing I saw.
And what was funny was, she called DeMar and said she wanted to skip one day of school to go, and DeMar didn't want to, but it turned out he said, I owe her money after.
I mean, she was shouting every free throw that Toronto was taking. I think Toronto missed 18 free throws, and that just might spell the difference in that game against the Chicago Bulls. But talk about Zach LaVine, 39 big points in a big play-in game like this, Isaac. Talk about his development as a player.
Zach LaVine came into the league with all that. And you saw that news when he got drafted, hated it, where he was going to be sent. But you've seen him develop from just being a slasher dunker to now become an all-around scorer. And what better way to show it than the play-ins?
Yeah, and again, in the play-ins, just doing a great job there, talking about Zach LaVine really showing out. And he hit a 54.5% field goal percentage and only made 2 3-pointers. And that, in general, is an incredible feat. But you take a look at the ones who did advance. You talk about the Atlanta Hawks. You talk about the fact that there has to be another matchup in terms of this play-in. Who takes up the last slot in the East for you?
Ooh, in the East. So
it's going to be the Bulls versus the Miami Heat. So who are you taking, Isaac, for that 8th spot?
It has to be the Bulls. This Miami right now is just struggling.
Really? Okay.
I think the reason is just that Miami, I think, with the way they constructed their roster, I think the pieces just didn't work out.
I might have to agree also with you, Isaac. Because if you look at their lineup, you only have Jimmy Butler, an old Kyle Lowry, and Bam Adebayo who can't shoot threes, and a bunch of random like shooters in Kyle Strauss and all that. But if you talk about the West, OKC and the Timberwolves, this is a tough one. OKC, it's pretty tough. We're gonna talk about it in the next.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it later on. But you take a look again as we continue focusing on this Eastern Conference matchup. Again, the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls battling for the final spot in the playoffs here. You just take a look at it, and we always say that the Miami Heat, we're focusing a lot on them because a lot of people are kind of disappointed where they are and what they're going to do. Do you feel that this is make or break for this iteration of the team? Because even at this stage, maybe you're asking questions about the age of the roster, where they're going to go, and what the future lies for.
Is it time to blow it up?
I think because if this Miami Heat team did not make the finals that bubble year, we would have seen a different iteration by now. But I think it's the perfect time if ever they're going to change it up. Kyle Lowry up there in age. Some of these guys are becoming free agents. They can they can find some more diamond in the rough. And of course, we have to recognize OG. Udonis Haslem's also retiring, so maybe it's time to change it up.
Maybe it's time to coach for the OG, huh?
Well, you know what? Sorry. Now that we're looking still more going to zoom in on the East, the Atlanta Hawks getting the better of the Miami Heat. A lot of people didn't give them any chances to beat the Heat, just basing on who's on the roster and what teams have done in previously. Do the Atlanta Hawks have a hope of actually advancing past the first round, in your opinion, based on what we've seen here so far?
No.
there's no chance,
Actually,
right?
the
I mean,
big,
who
the
are they
big
gonna
three
go
right
up
now in
against?
the East,
Yeah.
Boston, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia are not going to allow any of their first-round matchups
Yeah.
to advance.
Yeah.
If
Probably
ever
gonna be
there's
a
one,
sweep, man.
it's going to be that 4-5 that we have to keep an eye on
Yeah,
between. That matchup right there is something that we're going to enjoy.
I mean, if you take a look at the matchups, this Hawks team, no way, no chance
No.
of trying to at
they're
least
not-
get one game.
You know, okay, no, fine.
No.
If you believe that, all right. But my last question to you is before we go, in the two play-in games, who was your MVP of the two games in the East?
Ooh, I guess it has to be Trae Young, man. Just all the criticism all year round. I know, my bad. I'll change it. I'll change it to Clint Capella because Clint Capella is someone who was quiet the whole year, and now put your mouth where your money is, and he balled out against one All-Star Bam Adebayo.
And 21 rebounds in that game. Incredible
Control
numbers
the
here
boards,
for
just anchor for
Clint
the
I gotta
Hawks.
pick a big man.
Yeah,
I
you
gotta-
gotta.
I'm tired of picking guards.
Okay,
biased
big banner
person.
for Isaac.